When people think of day trips in London, they usually jump to Oxford or Bath, but Canterbury, it's totally underrated. It's got everything: a massive Gothic cathedral with wild history, cozy cobblestone streets that feel frozen in time, and a riverside walk that's honestly one of the prettiest I've done in England. In this video, I enlisted my mom to come with me, and we're hopping on a quick train ride out of London to show you why Canterbury deserves a visit on your English vacation. Let's jump into it. There's a fast train that takes about an hour to get down there, but we were staying close to London Victoria, so we opted to take that train, which is about an hour and 25 minutes. Be sure to book your tickets in advance as it gets more expensive as you get closer to the date. We hopped on the train, which was only about a quarter full, got a good spot, and then watched the beautiful countryside roll by on our hour and 25-minute train ride. This took us to Canterbury East, which is one of 2 train stations in the city, and you'll see the other one later in this video. As we left the train station, we crossed a bridge and were immediately greeted by the ancient city walls. The signs directing us to the cathedral told us to walk the city walls, and we weren't going to argue with that. It's so wild to come off the train station and be walking along an ancient city wall. And it goes right next to the freeway. Also, if you have children, there's a kids' playground right there as well. The city walls here were originally built by the Romans in 270 AD. They deteriorated over the next 1,000 years, and they were rebuilt by the Normans, who incorporated some of the ancient Roman walls into the walls that you see today. The walls don't go all the way around the city anymore, and there's only one intact gate, which you'll see later in the video. After walking around for about 10 minutes, we took the pedestrian exit off the walls to continue towards the cathedral. That was a great introduction to the city. I had no idea I was going to be getting off of the train station and immediately walking onto ancient city walls. Almost immediately as you make your way towards the city center, you're greeted by all sorts of history. Everything looks old and historic, and there were signs from buildings built in the 12th century. Of course, there's modern twists as well, including a beautiful market that we walked past and an English guard that you could take a picture with. After 10 minutes of walking, we arrived at the top attraction at the city, grabbed some tickets, and then made our way towards the Canterbury Cathedral. This cathedral is one of the most iconic and historically important churches in the world. It's the seat of the Archbishop of Canterbury, and it's known by many as the birthplace of the Christian church in England. With towering stained glass, medieval tombs, and so much history that you really need days to take it all in.
This is incredible. Can't believe how old it is.
It's hard to describe just how massive it is, with the ceiling towering above you, and it makes you feel so small as you're looking around. The cathedral you see today was mostly rebuilt after a fire in the 1100s, so a lot of it dates back to the 12th and 13th century. Tickets to the church cost about £20 per person, but I thought it was well worth it to preserve such a beautiful and historic place. The thing that put the cathedral on the map was the murder of Thomas Becket, the Archbishop of Canterbury, by Knights of King Henry II. For decades after that, it became one of the most popular pilgrimage sites in Europe. And you can even see stained glass in the church that tells the stories of many of the miracles that happened here. I want you to experience this cathedral for yourself, so this barely scratches the surface of all the things you can see here. But on the way out, be sure to stop by the cloisters on the outside, which are beautiful to see as well. The sign says that they were built in the early 15th century as a way for monks to walk around the cathedral site. We spent about an hour and a half there, and honestly, if you're interested, you could probably spend an entire day. There's so much history, so many things to see. It's incredible. Over 1,000 years of history there, plus all the stuff related to the pilgrimage, the miracle stained glass. It's just an incredible place to explore.
The docents in there were like so knowledgeable with huge amounts of history with the stained glass windows and what each picture represented. I really enjoyed talking to them also.
Coming down here for a day trip just to the church is worth it. But now we are going to go punting. When I was researching what to do in the city, punting kept coming up over and over again, so we decided to book a tour. Those are the boats that we're going in. You can see how shallow it is. It's like 6 inches shallow. After making our way down to the river Stour, we met up with our guide and were loaded onto our boat with 6 other people. We made it on the boat without falling in the water though. In case you're not familiar with punting, which is probably everybody who's watching this from the United States, it's one of the best ways to see the city by using a traditional flat-bottomed boat called a punt that glides along the narrow river. The guide has a long wooden pole that they use to push down into the ground right below the shallow water, which takes you along the waterway. It's a calm and scenic 45-minute adventure that takes you under medieval bridges and shows you parts of the city that you wouldn't normally see. And when I say go under medieval bridges, I mean go under medieval bridges and houses. There's one section in the beginning of the tour where you go into this long tunnel, and by the end you're basically leaning fully down on the boat in front of you to get under the low-hanging ceiling. Honestly, it was such a cool experience to see how our guide navigated this small tunnel, and it made the tour feel even more adventurous as you were making your way out.
We made it.
Our guide was fantastic, giving us lots of history lessons about the different places that we were passing by, and telling jokes and pointing out wildlife and different plant life along the way. And towards the end, he gave us a lesson on punting, including how to push the boat forward, how to turn it, in case we decided we wanted to try punting in the future. After about 45 minutes, we arrived back to where we started and we were greeted by a swan right at the end. He said there's also a nature tour they take which doesn't tell you any of the history but allows you to see a lot more beautiful views on the other side of the river. That was a really fun experience. It was very relaxing, got to learn the history. I don't know, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was really fun. I've never been punting before.
As we head on to the next stop, this is a good time to talk about this video's sponsor, Storyworth. Storyworth helps families preserve their favorite stories and keep them in personalized keepsake books. Once you gift a subscription, it lasts for a year, and every week they send out a new prompt full of questions that you can select on the back end, or you can even write your own. My sister and I gifted a subscription to my mom last Mother's Day, and every week when she responded to a question, we could see the response in real time and we can talk to her about the stories that she was sharing, leading to some awesome family conversations and even creating some new memories.
What I liked about Storyworth is that it was easy. I just opened my inbox, there was an email, and I just replied right inside the email. I didn't need to go to a website to get it done.
My mom actually finished hers about a month ago, so I have a book with her stories that I can read and I can share with my kids. I've also done it with my grandma, so I have her book as well, and I'm giving it to Pops this year for Father's Day. So if you want to give it to someone whose stories you want to preserve, you can scan the QR code right here or click the link in the description for $10 off. All right, let's go explore more.
Back in the city, we headed up to the main street and then walked through the historic Westgate on our way to find something to eat for lunch. It's always so overwhelming to find a place to eat since there's so many great options as you're walking around, but a couple people told me to head out to this one on the outskirts of the downtown area, so that's what we did. From here, we're over by the West train station, which is where some people would come in going from London, and we're gonna go to this place called the Goods Shed. The Goods Shed is a farmer's market, food hall, and restaurant all combined into one and housed inside of a restored railway shed next to the station. It was opened in 2002 and it's a great place to get produce, sandwiches, cheese, and even a cup of coffee. I tried to take my mom to a nice meal, but she decided she wanted a sandwich instead. These look pretty good though. Cheers.
A nice meal is a sandwich.
It seemed like there was a lot of great options, so let me know if you try something else. And then after eating our sandwich, we headed back in to explore more. How cool is this walk? We're just going through the city and we're going back through the old city gates. Next up, we headed over to the historic Westgate Tower and Museum. Standing at 60 feet tall, it's the largest surviving medieval city gate in England, and it was built around 1380. Of course, it was originally used to defend the city from attacks, but then later it was used as a prison from the 15th to the 19th century. After crossing the bridge into the tower, there's a small museum dedicated to when the tower served as a prison. Inside there was a docent who was very knowledgeable and was happy to tell us all about the prison and what it was like for the inmates, including that the only way they got to go outside was to go up on the roof and look out over the city. When you're in here, you can actually climb up to a viewpoint on the top. The stone spiral staircase is still open to get to the top, and from the top you can get some amazing 360-degree views. I love this view out over the city with the cathedral out there. The cathedral stands as a dominant presence on the skyline, but I'm kind of confused why they chose to build that modern building that takes away from the view of the cathedral. We were the only ones taking in the views from the top, so we sat out there for about 10 minutes and then we continued down all the way to the bottom of the spiral staircase where they have the debtor's cell. It was both sad and fascinating to learn about the debtor's cells. Basically, they put people who were in debt down here and they weren't allowed to leave until they could pay back their debt. Fortunately, they were stuck in the cell, so there was no way to earn money, and they basically relied on passerbys to hopefully toss in a few coins and start paying their debts down so they could leave. England's largest surviving medieval gateway. Part of the tower that we were on was constructed in 1380. Heading down from the tower, we made our way over to Westgate Gardens and we saw more people punting with a different punting company. Also, there was a stone statue of a woman lying in the clear water, and I couldn't find any information about it, so let me know if you know about it in the comments. We had the perfect sunny spring day, which is the best time to visit Westgate Gardens as the flowers were on full display. As one of England's oldest public parks, this is a great place to just walk along the water and take in a peaceful picnic enjoying the amazing views. Here you can find a 200-year-old tree, the remains of Roman walls, and if you're like us, you might even be able to see people riding their horses in the water. It was easily one of our favorite stops in the city, and we probably could have spent an hour just hanging out and relaxing here. Heading back through the West Gate, we made our way along Canterbury's High Street, with restaurants and shops on both sides of us.
I love this street. So cool.
And that's the water we were on when we went punting earlier. We came right under this bridge.
As you continue down the street, be sure to stop and see the statue of Geoffrey Chaucer. He was the writer of the Canterbury Tales, which told of pilgrims making their way to the cathedral, and which was one of the most influential writings of its time. The statue depicts the author as a pilgrim holding a scroll with the opening lines of the book. It was unveiled in the city in 2016.
We're walking out to something called the Crooked House, and then we're gonna hopefully make it to one of the oldest churches in England before they close.
About 5 minutes walk from the statue, the Crooked House is another icon in the city. It's a 17th century house that's famous for its dramatic lean and quirky charm. Inside it now features a bookstore, and it's cool to see, but they only allowed me to take a picture of the door when I went inside. Continuing on, we slowly walked the beautiful streets, passing the amazing King's School, before making our way to an area that had a bunch of different antique shops selling their wares along the street.
It's so fascinating to have the car park right next to the walls of the city, and then if you want to walk in, you just walk right there.
We're not in the United States anymore.
If you want to make your way all the way out to the church that we're seeing next, note that it's about a 15 to 20 minute walk from the city center. Along the way though, you get great views back towards the city walls, and even the cathedral out in the distance.
So that's the entrance to the Abbey back there, but we're going to the church first, then we're going to come back to the Abbey. I have to say, one of my favorite things about the day trips from London are just being able to walk. Just love walking and seeing all of the new cities and just seeing all of the amazing history and things that you would just pass right by if you were driving. So this is a really cool spot. I'm having a lot of fun here. Mom, what do you think?
It's gorgeous weather and no rain, just perfect.
Yeah, people said the weather in London wasn't good, but I mean, we just had nothing but sun. So I don't know, maybe y'all are lying in the comments.
Eventually we rounded the last bend and we could see our end goal in sight.
This is the oldest church in the English-speaking world, established in AD 597.
The church grounds are small, with a cemetery surrounding the small building. I think it's the plain appearance that makes it so impressive to see, with over 1,400 years of history. Inside you can see a blend of Roman, Saxon, Norman, and medieval elements in the church's architecture, with different parts of the church being built over different years. There was a volunteer there who told us all about the church, gave us some information to look at while we were walking around, and told us about how he still attends the church every Sunday. There's something amazing about seeing this church standing in the shadow of the Canterbury Cathedral, and to have it be so unassuming. I found it beautiful, and I'm so glad that I rushed out here to see it before it closed.
And you can even see the main cathedral right through the grounds there.
Saying goodbye to the church, we backtracked about 7 minutes to go to St. Augustine's Abbey. This is the third of the 3 sites that make up the UNESCO World Heritage Site in Canterbury. After paying the entrance fee, you can walk around the small museum to see different things that they've uncovered, and then grab your audio guide and head out in the back. I highly recommend you grab the audio guide, as it's pivotal to understand what you're looking at, since most of it is in ruins. The Abbey was founded by St. Augustine in 598 AD, and I was told that it was pivotal in reintroducing Christianity to southern England.
The audio guide said that at one point in time there was a cathedral as big as the Canterbury Cathedral here.
Here's a depiction of what the cathedral on the site would have looked like, and then here's what the inside would have looked like. What you see at this site are the remains of what was once one of the most important religious centers in England. Here's where we are at, if the church would have still been here. But in the 1530s, during Henry VIII's break from the Catholic Church, the abbey was dissolved, its treasures were taken, the monks were removed, and the buildings were pulled apart. Honestly, as you walk through here, it's wild to think of how much history was lost during that time. But even in the ruins, this place is still beautiful and well worth exploring.
And this is the ruins of the crypt in front of me.
I found it especially fascinating that you could actually walk down into the remains of the crypt. While of course it's hard to tell what you're actually looking at, it's pretty impressive to see the way that they've tried to preserve it. In terms of how much time you spend here, that fully depends on how much you want to dive into the history. I was told that if you listen to the entire audio guide, it'd take you right around an hour to explore the site. My mom and I probably only spent about 30 minutes here though.
Of the 3 parts that make up the UNESCO site, that one definitely requires the most imagination. There's an audio tour, there's a lot of interesting history in there, but most of it has actually been destroyed. That being said, it was still a pretty cool stop.
Lots of interesting things on the placards that you could read about, and graves that were like from the 950s. Pretty amazing that you could still read the inscription on them.
We got a few more things we're gonna do in the city before getting back on the train. It's still so crazy to me that those are the city walls right there. We're just walking right into the city.
Heading back to the high street, we took the opportunity to explore other historic sites on the way and to stop at a few shops. We were here on a Friday in May and it was not very busy. I have no idea how it would be in the summers though. And for our next stop, we decided to grab some coffee and headed to a place called Garage Coffee. I was gonna get a pastry here until I found something else next door.
You guys know I wasn't gonna leave without trying a donut shop, right? Sumo donuts.
While they were pretty picked over from the day already, they had one option that I wanted to try.
You know when you buy a bag of salad and it starts getting brown and gross? Donuts don't do that. This is hilarious. It's an American pancake house. And look, the top thing is a chicken towering inferno. That sounds very American. All right, I got my cortado and I got my donut. This is the chocolate pistachio. All right, here we go. I feel like one of the things I've noticed out here is that the donuts are not as moist. They're a little bit more dry. Also, the icing on the top feels like that kind of hard shell donut you get at a gas station in the United States, but it is very nice. I give Garage Coffee 2 thumbs up. That was very strong. I needed that caffeine boost to finish. We are going to one more museum and then we're heading to the train station.
Our last stop of the day brought us to the Beaney House of Art and Knowledge, which is an interesting looking building that I had seen earlier and decided I wanted to stop at later. Plus, it had a pretty unique sculpture outside as well.
Playwright, poet, and spy, and check it out. She's got a dagger back here.
This building really has a little bit of everything, as it's a free museum, art gallery, library, and visitor center for the city. It was opened in 1899 thanks to a wealthy Canterbury-born doctor named James George Beaney. When he died, he left money in his will specifically to give back to his hometown. It resulted in this incredible Victorian-design building that went through a restoration in 2012 and decided that it's not just a museum, but a house of art and knowledge.
This is a statue of unidentified head.
There's so many different things to see in here that one minute you're looking at taxidermied animals, the next you're looking at items picked up by explorers as they traveled the world, and then finally you're looking at different stuffed animals. It's definitely something to experience and it's free, so how do you beat that?
And with that, we're back at the city walls and the train station. Our day of exploring is done. Mom, what did you think?
What a hidden gem. It was a wonderful day. Lots of things to see.
I agree, so much fun. If you want to see other day trips from London, you can check them out here, but this is definitely a great one. We'll see you on the next.